finite state machine, right? What we'd like to be able to do is also handle actions. Right now, it's always returning the same state, right? Well, what if we want to add or remove a module? Let's remove a module. Right, let's remove a module. So here's our module. I'm sorry. Let's create a module. Let's create a module. So here's our module list, and remember, what we want to be able to do is maintain this as much as possible as a self-contained, right? That a component that doesn't its only dependencies are through its interface, right? Through whatever's being passed along, right? And it doesn't have to maintain its own state. It would maintain only its state only because it needs to highlight a couple of things. It needs to, but it doesn't propagate its state outside of its boundaries. Okay. So let's say we want to add a component, a module. So let's create a button here, and we'll say create a module. So here we have a create button at the end. So we like to create it and then click on it and then add a brand new module. Yes. Again, it's not maintaining its own state, right? The only thing that it needs to do is to notify whoever's maintaining the state, right? That its intention is to create a new module, but it's not its responsibility, right? Basically, we want to be able to somehow work its way to this reducer and append to the current state, to this list of modules, a brand new module. Basically, that's what we want. Yes, right? Somehow in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have an onClick, and we're gonna have a create module function. We're gonna call it, which presumably is being passed to us as an event handler. We don't handle our own state, right? Somebody else is doing it for us. Okay, so how do we do that? Just like we did the state to property mapper, we want to have a mechanism by which we create a map that says, hey, just like modules is being mapped from the outside and grabbed from the state, right, this is data coming from the reducer into here. We want to go the other way around. We want to go from the component and notify the reducer that something happened, right? And then calculate what the next state is. Make sense? Right? So the way we do that is the same thing. We need to create a map out of all the events, right? This time around is a function. Right? And somehow in this function notify the reducer. Hey reducer, we want a new module. Create a new state that has a brand new module in there, right? And then send me back that new state that will have a new module in there, and then I'll re-render. Make sense? All right. So how do we do that? Well, it just happens that we follow the same thing here. We are going to create a const, the action of notifying the reducer, right? The action of notifying the reducer is called a dispatch. We're going to dispatch an event to the reducer. We're going to send an event to the reducer. So this is going to call a dispatch to property mapper, right? So what this dispatcher is going to say is that it's going to pass us here a callback so that we can notify the reducer. So we can call the reducer and say, hey reducer, this is what happened, right? This is the event, handle it. Calculate the next state, right? So just like we're reading state from the reducer, we're gonna receive here a dispatch that we're gonna be able to call the reducer and send data to the reducer, right? So the state is being passed from the reducer, and dispatch allows us to send data to the reducer, right? So this is gonna be equal to this curly bracket, and this is what we're gonna return. Return this map. Return arrow. There we go. Okay. So here is where we would handle the callback, right? For instance, we can verify that we are indeed calling this, create module. All right. So just like the connect used this mapper, right, to map to map from the state, map it to a property, the connect also can take as argument this second function. It can take in this second function, which is going to map the properties to a function that's going to be sent over to the reducer, right? So we're mapping this create module right here to this function, which right now is just doing an alert, right? And who does that mapping? The connect. You need to provide it a function that does the mapping. What maps to what, right? So let's run that. So if I click on create, notice that we are calling that alert. All right? Okay. And here's where we can notify the dispatch. We can notify the reducer by calling the dispatch. You can say dispatch. Okay. We can call the dispatch, and the dispatch is going to call the reducer. Meaning, if I go here in the reducer, we can say alert reducer call. Right. Obviously, this is going to be called the very first time. There it is. Yes, it was called the very first time. But if we click on create, I think. Wait. Where's the dispatch? Dispatch. Oh, I think I need to pass in an object. At least I need to pass one object, and that object, at least it has to have one single property in there, and we'll say hello. Okay, create. Okay, notice that the reducer is being called. You see that? The reducer is being called every time I click on the create. That function is running. Yes? Right? And what it needs to do? Well, one thing that I could do is, if I pass it something here, this type that is being passed, this object that is being passed to the action right here, this action, right? So anything I put in here in this object, I can look at it. I can say type. I can say action dot type over here, right? So if I click on create, notice that there's the hello. See that? Whatever I pass in that action, right? And that's how internally in my reducer I can look at the action type and decide what to do. You want a new module? Oh, sure. Let me add a new module in there, right? For instance, I could do something like I could say if action.type is equal hello, right? I can return a new module. I want to add a new module. The state will be that the modules, right, will be the copy of all the old modules. The old modules, which is the state.modules. The state contains the current state. The state variable contains the current state. So I'm going to copy over all the old modules. Yes? Right? And I'm going to add a brand new module that has a title, new module, and with a brand new ID, new date dot get time, and convert that into a string. Excuse me. Thank you. So I'm appending a brand new state, right? So there it is. So I'm going to click on create. There's my alert, and there's my new module. You see that? All right. So let's remove this alert. Right. So now I can create any number of new modules. It's being appended. Yes. But notice that it's not mutating the state. It's creating new states, and it's keeping track of all the other states. When I had no modules, when I had just one more module, two more modules, three more modules, I could perhaps go backwards in time by revisiting my old states. We're not going to do that. Right? But everybody's still with me? Yes.
Does it know implicitly to create a new list item or
So by creating a new state, and returning it runs the provider again. It runs the provider, and the state is generated again, and it visits all the connects again, right? So it reruns all these connects again. So it reruns these mappers again, right? It extracts the new modules, which now has an additional module, and then it maps it to the property. So everybody's notified of this new state, right? And then it re-renders. Yes? Yes.
It's not connected to like the services yet, right?
No, it's not connected to the service yet. Yeah. All this is synchronous right now. At some point, we need to make it asynchronous. So it needs to go to the server, and we'll do that a little later, right? All right, everybody still with me? Okay.